Hello friends, host Eric here, host Talking with Famous People, and this morning I respond to a comment that followed up on a previous comment that I failed to make a video that I promised to make a video about, and he was smart enough to remind me, because if I tell you that, if I say I can make a video about this topic that you just commented about because I think it's really interesting, and then I fail to do so, it means I forgot about it. Okay, so And I certainly will not mind being reminded. I won't think like, this person's bugging or whatever. It's not going to ever happen. I understand it's my fault. Okay, the comment asked, and I'm going to address right now, the issue of ideation and disassembly. Now, what this individual means is basically, how can I produce conceptual work at a faster rate, more comfortably on my feet? And I think the other implicit thing there is, I see you, host Eric, taking apart various complex arguments on the fly without a lot of apparent time to think about it. How do you do that? Okay, that's how I interpret the gist of the comment. And then the other aspect of it is substances. He wants to know the extent to which substances affect ideation, how they affect ideation, and particularly I think he's looking for ways of boosting it. I will say this, the first substance that he mentions there is Adderall. If you're talking about any substance that's going to actually have a net positive impact on ideation in the moment, that would be it. So, if I were going to, say for example, compete at something that required me to be mentally sharp and disassemble arguments on the fly, if I were to do a debate round, or if I were to have a conversation with somebody with social status and significance that would justify me really being on my toes or something, then I'd probably addy up. Only so much, though. I mean, the thing is, there are lots of factors to consider when you are talking about what you'd like to have your brain be impacted to do. If, in fact, I'm enabled to ideate more and I'm adding up, there comes a certain point where it becomes counterproductive, because it's not just ideation that I'm interested in doing, it's also communication. I need other people to engage with what I'm saying and to understand what I'm saying and to feel as though I'm affording, to the extent that others are involved in the video making process or in the conceptual back and forth or something, that I'm involving them somewhat. This channel is an FE challenge because, as a general rule, it's good extroverted feeling to have space for both speakers and try to balance the amount of time that you speak against time that other people speak, and just generally be very aware of that kind of management of everybody getting their turn, everybody feeling heard, and everybody feeling included, and all that kind of stuff. And I would normally probably prioritize that a little bit more than I do around here, because, well, basically because I tried to do it a lot. I tried to ideate a little bit less myself and include other people more, and frankly, what I determined is either people might want that from a viewer perspective and from a participant perspective, or they might not, really. And it's hard for me to tell how much they do want that, and it's harder for me to do than just talking a lot myself, which, you know, I'm the center of the channel, so this is something that took me a long time to accept, but and really try to manifest this thing that the reason the channel is of interest, that basically own having good ideas and presenting them effectively. To say that talking with famous people, to the extent that it's effective or popular at effective at communicating ideas, or popular meaning people like to consume my ideation, then it is so because of me. It's one of those things where it's not how you're supposed to position things, really, even though it's obviously the case. And that type of FE management, of managing being successful or the center of attention or the main guy or whatever, gracefully, and both owning it and being a good leader, which means making people feel safe. That's what I learned from Nick. That stuff constrains my ideation a little bit, and or directs it a little bit. And there's lots of complications there. But that's all sort of a disclaimer or caveat before I actually answer the question a little bit more meaningfully. The thing is that, yes, Adderall improves my ideation, and more importantly, improves my follow-through. I think what Adderall may do most for me is improve my SE. I find myself doing all kinds of things that require physical action and follow-through and a little bit of persistence, and those skills seem to become sharpened a bit even after the drug is gone. It's like I've practiced the often challenging task of following through for the full duration of a project. It requires good TE to understand how big a project's going to be, and how much follow through is going to require from you, and how long it's actually going to take, and how much energy you actually have to devote toward it, and to be honest with yourself about, like, okay, this is going to get boring pretty quick, or like that kind of shit. Ideation in and of itself doesn't really get boring, and I can do it forever. So if you'd like to, quote unquote, improve your NE, your NETI, and you want to do it with drugs, take speed, sure. But remember that drug will probably amplify something in you that is corresponding to the function you have in a given slot, I would guess, not specifically the functions you'd like it to, unless they're in that slot. So while it's true that I NETI more, and probably a little bit more effectively, usually, on Adderall, it is not true that it's qualitatively different. In other words, it's quantitatively different, and its form is a little more precise sometimes, or a little less precise sometimes. It's hard to say how certain a correlation is. Sometimes it provokes more mindfulness that allows me to be more succinct and produce a concise, on-topic video that people can consume at a pace that they like to consume it at, and feel as though they've heard some insightful things, and that they got some ideas out of it that they can incorporate into their own thinking and improve their own understanding of themselves or others. And other times it makes me more tangential and more likely to diverge into parentheticals. So again, though, that is probably audience-focused perspective. It's saying I'm ideating more sometimes, but it's not as effective because I digress too much. Or it's saying I ideate a little bit less, but more effectively because it's more concise. If you're focused on your own perspective and you're saying, I want to ideate in private, I want to brainstorm, well then, that would seem to correlate strongly with just, yeah, that would seem to work fine, I guess. But Again, it may be the case that whatever's your 8th slot is the thing that really gets amplified. And that's what gets amplified for me for sure. My SE gets much, much better. Instead of just coming up with ideas of things that might sound fun, might want to do, or good ideas, or whatever, I'm likely to make progress on them. Sometimes I create a project, sometimes I don't. Regardless, the Adderall mostly just converts my NETI, makes it have a meaningful working partnership with SE instead of excluding it. It also means that I tend to be a little bit less deliberate, naturally. It's going to follow. I'm going to be less deliberate about choosing what I work on. One of the challenges is if I want to get some shit handled and I know what that shit is, and it's a hard job for me to get myself to take on, it's like, oh, this is boring, I don't want to do it. Taking Adderall is not necessarily going to help because I'm going to do something, but it's probably not going to be that. And, you know. Okay, so I guess you have to have a bunch of other substances too. I don't really find anything else increases ideation or makes it more possible. I find that alcohol makes it more clumsy. Caffeine doesn't do anything to me. Marijuana makes me more likely to start something, whatever it is, because I'm no longer quite as bouncing off the wallsy, and things sound interesting. I don't remember what else to put on there. Oh, okay, mushrooms or LSD. Like, if you take, first of all, I would never take acid again, and I don't recommend it for anybody. Mushrooms, yes. Mushrooms just make me feel spiritually clean. Like, I'm not quite as fretting about things that aren't as important anymore. It doesn't really impact my ideation, except that I'll sit there and find totally ridiculous things that aren't really very funny, absolutely fucking hilarious, and try to explain to other people why they're so hilarious. So, that's kind of like my experience on mushrooms usually. No, you're not understanding me. The reason this thing is so fucking hilarious is because, and now it's been like 30 minutes trying to explain it without being able to get through because I'm laughing so hard. Like, that's what mushrooms does to me. Anyway, it changes the quality of the ideation substantially down. Okay, there's no real improvement in anything. But except I don't take myself so seriously afterwards. It's just, in general, I think like, oh, fuck it, who cares? Everything's cool, mushrooms are great, I love them. I wouldn't look to substances for any meaningful change in your life. If you're somebody out there who thinks, I'm going to open the door to perception and take acid and don't do it. It's fucking stupid. You don't gain any knowledge from that. The only way that somebody might gain some knowledge from their experiences is if they haven't done them at all, and they do it once, and it kind of wakes them up a bit to some metacognitive work. And it's a good thing, probably. But it's, if you think that there's truth at the end of drugs, you're absolutely fucking lying to yourself. There's no truth at the end of drugs. There's just being more or less dissatisfied with the status quo state of consciousness. Anyhow, that's what I have to say about that whole time. Oh, I want to talk about disassembling fast in a moment. That's two things. It's one, debate skills that know how to critique what's being said in terms of what it's doing in argumentation grammar rather than what it's saying. So, they talk about locutionary and illocutionary acts. Locutionary are the things that are said by the thing, like Dave goes to the store. Illocutionary is what the purpose of it is as an act. So the purpose of it is for the speaker to inform me that Dave's gone to the store because probably I want to know where Dave is. So it's to express a belief. That's illocutionary. But there's another kind of way to think about statements is you might call delocutionary for debate locutionary, which is what are they doing argumentationally in relation to a disputed claim or quote unquote the resolution. And knowing that, focus. So if you're like level 1 is locutionary, being able to understand and work with the meaning of the words people say. Level 2 is illocutionary, being able to understand both the meaning of the words and what they expressly say, and the purpose by which the person is saying it. Like the person's understanding the expression of the claim as an act of ontology, of a way of manifesting existence by the person making the claim. And then the third level is to understand the mechanics of reasoning, which is one kind of way of expressing a set of illocutionary acts that relate to belief and claims of oughtness for the other regarding belief. In other words, you ought to agree with this because blah, or you ought not believe that because blah. Those sort of things are delocutionary, which is they operate according to a certain set of rules and grammar to them that is you can get faster and faster and faster with the more you node things out. So when I hear something, I might immediately identify it as kind of argument X. Note that something else is kind of argument Y. Know that those things, know or intuit in the moment that those things don't work together in the context of frame Z, which is the whole thing we're talking about, and not even bother then to have to parse out what the meaning of the words convey and how that impacts on the contention level, which is to say, not in reference to the frame, but just in reference to what's being said right there, basically the locutionary level. I don't have to worry about it. I don't even have to worry, and we never have to worry really when we're talking about too much about the illocutionary level. And people do all the time, and they say, the reason this is wrong is because you're biased. That's an illocutionary attack. Anyway, so that's why I'm so fast at disassembling, is because I process everything on the delocutionary level, and it means I don't spend a lot of time processing things in either other level. For example, there was this argument that somebody made about what was it about? Was it Nick or something? He said, oh, that we were talking about openness. Oh, big 5 personality traits. It was with Nick. It was one of the traits, and we were talking about sort of where you fall on a scale of it, and the way he expressed it would have it implied that, I mean, it was necessarily the case that the way he said it, that the scale would only go from maximal to 0, so you wouldn't have any agreeableness. It would go from agreeable to 0, not agreeable, but it wouldn't go from 0 to disagreeable. And even though that wasn't what he was talking about directly, the point he was making, fucking Carl, you fucking turn that off, you fucking retards. Anyway, so I pointed out that, yeah, but if that were the case, there would be no disagreeable people. And he was like, oh, right, yeah, I see what you're saying. But the thing is, that scaling thing, understanding it as a mechanical argument first before I don't even remember what his point was. All I remember was that I was able to infer from it that it was based on a model of a spectrum that only went to 0 and didn't go to the negative on the scale of agreeableness. That's why I'm able to disassemble so fast, is because I process shit on that level first. And you kind of have to just practice it a bunch and you get faster and faster at it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese. Oh yes, plenty of cheese. Commenter, I forget your name. Roland you or whatever. Makes everything better, of course.